See, for my life, it goes a little bit like this. I grew up in Brisbane. My father, he was a toy salesman. He traveled the world selling toys. It was awesome. On Saturday mornings, we'd go down to the factory and my father would open up the storeroom and he'd say, boys, break as many toys as you want. I'm going upstairs. It was awesome. I had two brothers. I got two brothers. They're 8 and 6 years older than me. And they used to show love to me by locking me in cupboards. Who has brothers like that? Yeah. They are my best mates. If you're watching, Craig and Gav today, I love you, man. Thanks for those cupboard experiences. And we were living the dream, to be honest with you. As a family, we had enough. As a family, my mum and dad, they loved us, they cared for us, they looked after us.
Hello.
But on July the 4th, 1989, I went to school and did what I always did as a 10-year-old boy. Got in trouble. That's just the type of kid I was. And I got in trouble and all the rest. And, you know, that afternoon my mum comes to pick me up from school. If you ever meet my mum is notorious for being early. Like if I want her to come over for dinner, I'll tell her to come at 8 p.m. at night, knowing she'll be there at 5:30 in the afternoon. Like she's always early. She's never late. And here I am sitting at the front of my school waiting for my mum to rock up. 3 o'clock comes past, 10 past 3, 3:15. Here I am, I'm a mess on the front of my school, just bawling my eyes out going, where is my mum? Teacher comes running down and says, oh, hey Grant, your mum's been held up. Can you come up to the office? Your next door neighbour's going to pick you up. About 15, 20 minutes later, my neighbour picked me up, and I'm not sure if this has ever happened to you before, but have you ever walked into a moment in time, into a conversation, into a room, and know that something is wrong?
Yeah.
As I sat in the front seat of that car that day, I knew that there was something wrong. The whole 15-minute ride home to Rochdale South, didn't matter how many times, my neighbour said everything's fine. As we pulled into our little cul-de-sac that day, there was cars all over my driveway, all over my front lawn, and all over the road. I still got the scene imprinted in my brain as I walked into my house and my 2 older brothers jumped over the back fence, and my mum sat us down that day and told us that my father had had a heart attack and passed away. You know, as a 10-year-old boy, I blamed God. As a 10-year-old boy, I blamed my mothers, I blamed my brothers, and I blamed this world for taking my father away. Literally for 3 weeks, I just could not stop crying until one morning I woke up and I said, this hurt, this pain, this grief I'm going through is not going to touch my life anymore. And I pushed those feelings so deep down inside my life that I wiped all memory of my father. By the time I got to 12, I was smoking a pack of cigarettes every afternoon. By the time I got to 13, I was high most afternoons of the week on marijuana. By the time I got to 14, I was binge drinking, waking up in my own vomit on the weekend. By the time I got to 15, I was in the illicit drug scene, dropped out of school, sharing needles with my mates. All the way through to the age of 22. They would have technically classed me as a functional addict. Where I was a drug addict, alcoholic, but I'd still go to work every day. 10 years of addiction, all because I never dealt with this core thing that happened in my life. I still remember at the age of 22 in January 2001, I walked into a park one day, and the truth is I went to the right schooling. I got brought up in the right household. I had the right people to encourage me, but through my choices and my decisions, I went my own way. By the age of 22, I walked into this park at Kangaroo Point, and I fell to my knees, and I looked up to heaven. And it wasn't any elegant prayer, but it simply was this: God, if you are real. Come on, we've all had that question before. We've all asked that question before. We've all gone, God, what is my purpose? What is going on in my life? God, are you actually real? And as I got down to my knees and I looked at him and said, God, are you real? If you're real, you need to do something in my life. And at that moment, the Holy Spirit fell upon me. If I'm going to be honest with you here today, I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. For 45 minutes, I sat in this park, bawling my eyes out. Like just uncontrollable. Who's seen the uncontrollable cry before? Like I just could not stop crying. I had tears. I could not stop crying until about 45 minutes later, I got up, I wiped the tears away. I rang up one of my mates and said, hey, this has just happened, can I come over? For the next 2 months, I did what I always did. got drunk, got high every single day. Knowing that something had happened in my life, but not being able to explain it. 2 months later, this young 17-year-old girl walked into my bakery. And I still remember the day. Still remember what she was wearing. She came to the counter and asked for a job. I remember elbowing my boss and said, if you do not hire her, I quit. He's like, why is that? And I said, well, have a look at her. She's hot. Actually, she's a beautiful young lady. But there was something different about her. There was joy oozing out of her life. You know, in a week and a half's time, me and that young lady celebrate 19 years being married.
Wow,
we have
come on.
3 beautiful kids together. She was my angel from heaven and still is today.